7 boring businesses, quietly building fortunes in Nigeria. Here's something nobody tells you about Africa's richest man. Aliko Dangote didn't get to a $36 billion fortune building an app. He started in 1977, at 20 years old, with a small loan from his uncle, by most accounts around $3,000, trading sugar and salt. Bags of it. Door to door, then truck to truck, then factory to factory. Today, the Dangote Group is Africa's largest manufacturing conglomerate, and it's still standing on cement, sugar, salt, and energy. He's not even the only one doing it. The man right behind him on the continent's rich list, Abdul Samad Rabiu, founder of BUA Group, built close to $16 billion the exact same unglamorous way: cement, sugar, edible oils. 2 of Africa's 3 richest people, and neither one of them is selling you software. Alex Hormozi says this all the time. The best businesses are usually the ones nobody wants to talk about at a dinner party. Boring, unsexy, recurring, necessary whether the economy is good or bad. That's the entire game. So in this video, we're not chasing the next fintech idea. We're going hunting for 7 boring Nigerian industries, overlooked, underformalized, deeply necessary, that are quietly turning ordinary operators into wealthy ones right now. For everyone, I'll show you a real founder already proving the model, the actual data behind the gap, and the exact framework from a best-selling business book that explains why it works. And for each one, we're running it through Metse. It's a consulting term, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. All it means in plain English: we're going to slice the market so nothing overlaps and nothing's left out. So by the end of every section, you know exactly who you'd be building this for, and the one question your business has to answer to win them. First opportunity: cold chain, turning spoiled food into stored money. Let's start with a number that should genuinely bother you. Nigeria loses somewhere between 3.5 and 5 trillion naira a year. That's more than the country's entire 5-year federal agriculture budget combined, to food that simply rots before anyone gets to sell it. Not because Nigeria doesn't grow enough. It's one of the biggest food producers on the continent. The food gets grown. It just never gets refrigerated. Here's the founder's story I actually want you to remember. A man named Nemeka Ikegwonu used to be a community radio journalist, reporting from rural markets. One day he met a farmer who had abandoned an entire truckload of produce. Wilted, worthless, 2 days after harvest. So Ikegwonu did something straight out of the lean startup. He didn't raise money and build a national cold storage network. He built one cold room, powered by an ordinary window air conditioning unit, and tested it. That's the whole minimum viable product Eric Ries writes about. The smallest version of an idea, built to test a single assumption. Will people actually pay to store their produce? They did. That tiny test became cold hubs, solar-powered walk-in cold rooms that farmers and market traders now rent by the crate for about 50 cents a day. No diesel generator required. The units stretch shelf life from 2 days to 21 and cut spoilage by up to 80% for the people using them. Today, there are more than 50 hubs running across 22 states. The company says it hasn't lost a single paying customer since 2016, and it's pulled in backing from Microsoft and USAID along the way. Why does this actually work as a business and not just a feel-good project? Because it isn't selling cold storage, it's renting it, the same way a self-storage facility rents space. The capital goes in once. The revenue comes back every single day a crate sits inside. Who this is actually for? Strip everything else away, and you're left with 3 groups. The smallholder farmer at the point of harvest, who needs to hold produce until the price is right, not whenever a buyer happens to show up. The market trader in an urban wholesale market, losing margin to spoilage every single day. And anyone moving fish or meat out of a coastal community with no reliable grid power at all. The one question this business has to answer: how do I stop losing 30 to 50% of what I grow or sell to spoilage before I even get the chance to sell it? Second opportunity: recycling. The trash is already valuable. Nobody's collecting it. Lagos generates roughly 13,000 metric tons of waste every single day. Less than half of it is ever formally collected. Here's the part that should make you sit up. Of the waste that is collected, 30 to 40% of it is high-quality recyclable material, and one of the city's largest recycling plants reportedly runs at only 40% capacity. Not because demand is low, because nobody is bringing it enough clean, sorted material to process. Read that again. The factory exists. The machinery exists. The buyer exists. What's missing is the supply chain in between. Bilikis Adebiyi Abiola spotted this while she was studying at MIT. Of all places, a class assignment had her researching problems facing low-income communities back home. In 2012, she came back to Lagos and built Recyclers, cheap, locally made cargo bicycles that can navigate the narrow alleys regular garbage trucks can't reach, collecting recyclables directly from households. Every kilogram a family hands over earns them SMS-tracked points, redeemable for food, airtime, or household goods, funded in part by brands like Coca-Cola, Nestle, Unilever, and Guinness. 12 years later, Recyclers has pulled more than 15,400 tons of recyclable material out of the waste stream and opened a pet recycling plant in Ogun State. This is straight out of 0 to 1, Peter Thiel's idea of a secret, a true thing almost nobody else believes yet. Everybody in Lagos looks at trash and sees trash. Bilikis looked at the same pile and saw unprocessed raw material, sitting on the wrong side of a missing supply chain. That gap between what everyone sees and what's actually true, that's exactly where the money was. Who this is for? 3 clean buckets. FMCG brands now under real pressure to prove their packaging actually gets recycled, not just claim it. The recycling plants themselves, starving for consistent, clean feedstock, and low-income households sitting on a free source of income they're currently just throwing in a gutter. The one question this business has to answer: who can reliably collect, sort, and deliver clean, recyclable material to my plant? On schedule, at scale. Because right now, nobody is. 2 down. Before we go further, if breakdowns like this are actually useful to you, hit subscribe right now. The Executive Playbook, 2 of these every single week, and you don't want to miss the next one. Third opportunity: skilled trades. The trust gap nobody's built a business around. This one is almost embarrassing to say out loud, but it's documented and it's true. Nigerian homeowners are now flying in, tilers and electricians from Togo, Ghana, and Benin Republic, for jobs as basic as tiling a bathroom, because they genuinely can't trust the artisans available to them at home. Meanwhile, millions of Nigerian youth are unemployed and actively looking for exactly this kind of work. A 2025 study by Nigerian researchers put an actual number on what this costs the economy: $14 billion a year lost to the skills gap, against youth unemployment above 33%. In specific sectors, the shortfall is brutal: a 68% deficit in ICT skills, 63% in agricultural expertise. Construction firms routinely report project delays and inflated costs, directly because they can't find a reliable electrician or welder when they need one. This is the exact problem Michael Gerber wrote The E-Myth Revisited about: the gap between being technically good at a trade and actually running it as a business. Most Nigerian artisans are skilled technicians. Almost none of them operate inside a system that signals, "I am trustworthy, I am certified, I show up." That trust layer simply doesn't exist yet at scale. And where government and corporates are already paying to build the supply side, the Industrial Training Fund has committed to certifying 1 million artisans over 5 years, and corporates like Access Corporation are now sponsoring starter toolkits for newly certified tradespeople. There's an obvious private layer sitting on top, completely unbuilt: verification, booking, and reputation. Who this is for? 3 groups with no overlap: construction trades, tiling, plumbing, electrical, masonry, home and auto maintenance, your AC technician, your generator repairman, your mechanic, and industrial or technical trades like welding and HVAC for businesses. Every one of them needs the same thing on both sides. Homeowners and SMEs need a vetted person they can trust on demand, and the artisans themselves need a way to prove they're worth hiring. The one question this business has to answer: how do I find, or how do I become, a tradesperson who's verifiably good, shows up on time, and charges a fair price? Fourth opportunity: commercial laundry, the most fragmented industry you've never thought about. There are over 4,500 registered laundry businesses in Nigeria right now. Here's the number that should make every operator's eyes light up. 99.4% of them are single-owner shops. No brand, no systems, no contracts. Just one person, a basin, and a pressing iron. This is the textbook setup for what Jim Collins describes in Good to Great as the flywheel. Unglamorous, disciplined, repeatable execution that compounds slowly at first, then dramatically. Snowflake's dry cleaners didn't reinvent laundry. It just did the boring things consistently: standardized pricing, home pickup and delivery, and, critically, chasing institutional contracts with hotels, hospitals, and schools, instead of relying purely on walk-in customers. That discipline took it past 20 branches across Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and Owerri, in a market where almost nobody else has scaled past one location. Why does this stay this fragmented when demand is obviously growing? A rising dual-income urban middle class, a hospitality sector that needs outsourced linen and uniform handling. Because the real barriers here aren't creative, they're operational. Reliable power, reliable water, reliable staff. Solve those 3 boring problems better than the shop next door, and you can convert one-off customers into monthly retainer contracts that don't churn. Who this is for? This market splits cleanly into 4. Individual residential customers paying per item. Hotels and event centers needing bulk linen turnaround. Hospitals and schools needing hygiene-grade contracts. And corporates needing staff uniforms cleaned on a schedule. The one question this business has to answer: who can guarantee my linens or uniforms come back clean and on time, every time, without me managing water, power, or machines myself? One more, and I'd argue it's the biggest blind spot on this entire list. Subscribe now, so the next breakdown lands in your feed automatically. Fifth opportunity: elder care, a demographic wave with almost nothing built underneath it. Here's a statistic I want you to actually sit with. By the time the average Nigerian turns 45, they've already lost one or both parents, mostly to conditions that were preventable if someone had been checking in regularly. Nigeria has more than 20 million citizens above the age of 60 right now. It has fewer than 200 certified geriatricians to serve them. That's roughly 1 doctor for every 100,000 seniors. And the elderly population is projected to roughly double by 2050, with still no functional national policy on elder welfare. A doctor who'd spent more than 20 years in medicine lost his own father to multiple strokes while watching his mother manage diabetes and hypertension largely on her own. That's what pushed him to build GeroCare Solutions, a Lagos health tech company that sells a subscription: home physician visits, post-stroke rehab, caregiver placement, nursing support, frequently paid for by adult children living abroad who would otherwise be wiring emergency money home every time something goes wrong. A separate company, Greymate Care, exists for almost the identical reason. Its founder couldn't find a single trained caregiver for her own diabetic grandmother back in 2016. So she built the company that would have solved her own problem. This is Clayton Christensen's jobs to be done idea in its purest form. The adult child paying for this isn't really buying healthcare. They're hiring a way to stop feeling helpless and guilty from 3,000 miles away. That emotional job is what they're actually paying to get done. And once you see it that way, the subscription model makes complete sense. It's recurring because the anxiety is recurring. And we've already watched this exact mechanism work in Nigeria before, just for a different need. Reliance Health built a subscription HMO model from scratch and raised close to $50 million from investors like General Atlantic, proving Nigerians and their families abroad will pay a predictable monthly fee instead of gambling on a crisis. Elder care is the same bet, aimed at the other end of the family. Who this is for? 4 lanes here: in-home companionship and non-medical care, home-based clinical and nursing care, residential or assisted living facilities, which barely exist in Nigeria yet, and remote monitoring coordinated for family abroad. The one question this entire category answers: who is physically checking on my parent today? And how would I even know if something was wrong before it became an emergency? 5 down, 2 left. And honestly, the next one might be the single biggest number in this entire video. Subscribe now if you haven't already. 6th opportunity: renting Nigeria out of the generator era. Sit with this number for a second. Nigeria spends roughly $22 billion a year, every single year, just on diesel to keep generators running, according to the Energy Commission of Nigeria. Not infrastructure, not equipment, just fuel, burned to keep the lights on. The national grid can theoretically generate around 13,000 megawatts, but the transmission network can only actually carry a fraction of that to homes and businesses. So almost half of all electricity in the country is self-generated, and solar still makes up less than 2% of it. Femi Adeyemo and Kunle Odebunmi started a company called Arnergy back in 2013, selling solar systems outright to homes and businesses. For years, outright sales made up the vast majority of their business, because long-term leases were actually more expensive than just running a diesel generator. Then Nigeria removed fuel subsidies in 2023, and diesel prices jumped as much as 5 times over. Suddenly, the math flipped completely. Adeyemo started telling customers something simple: you're already paying 200,000 naira a month for diesel. With us, that drops to 96,000. Over 5 years, he said, it's a no-brainer. Leasing customers tripled. Bill Gates' own fund, Breakthrough Energy Ventures, backed their $9 million Series A, and they've since raised an $18 million Series B. Arnergy has now deployed more than 1,800 systems across 35 states. This is Alex Hormozi's Grand Slam offer, from $100 million offers, almost word for word. Hormozi says the goal of any offer is to make the price look small and the risk disappear, until saying no feels irrational. Arnergy didn't sell solar panels, they sold pay less than you already pay, starting this month, with no diesel runs. That reframing, not new technology, is what tripled their customer base. And they're not alone. Daystar Power, now owned by Shell, has raised over $62 million, running the same power-as-a-service model for bigger clients. Nigerian Bottling Company, the people who bottle Coca-Cola here, runs on it, and so does Access Bank. Who this is for? 3 groups again, cleanly split. Small and mid-sized businesses currently bleeding cash on diesel. Factories, schools, clinics, hotels, places of worship. Landlords and estate managers who want predictable monthly power costs instead of a generator bill that swings with global oil prices. And anyone, frankly, who's tired of budgeting their entire week around when the generator needs fuel. The one question this business has to answer: How do I get reliable, lower-cost power every month, without a massive upfront bill, and without betting on the grid at all? Seventh opportunity: verified pharmaceutical distribution, building the trust layer for medicine. In just the last 3 years, Nigeria's drug regulator, NAFDAC, says it has seized about 2 trillion naira, roughly $4.8 billion, worth of counterfeit and substandard medicine. Estimates of how much fake medicine is actually circulating vary depending on who you ask and which drug category you're looking at. But every credible source agrees on the same thing. It's a large, persistent, and deadly problem, concentrated heavily in antimalarials, antibiotics, and pain medication, exactly the drugs ordinary Nigerians reach for most. Vivian Nwaka launched a company called MedSaf in January 2017, after looking closely at what she called a massive, almost invisible industry. Instead of trying to police every open-air drug market in the country, she built a direct supply line connecting hospitals and pharmacies straight to verified multinational and local manufacturers, cutting out the chain of unverified middlemen where counterfeits get slipped in. Today, MedSaf says it covers more than 80% of the medicine needs of many health facilities in Lagos, across roughly 650 drug categories. She's not the only one proving this model. Drugstock, launched the same year, built a cloud-based platform doing something similar, with real-time supply analytics so hospitals can see exactly where their medicine actually came from. This is Warren Buffett's idea of a moat, playing out in real time. Buffett has always said he looks for businesses with a durable advantage competitors can't easily copy. Not the cheapest price, a structural edge. MedSaf and Drugstock's moat isn't price, it's trust, and it compounds. Every time a hospital orders again without getting a fake batch, the relationship gets harder for a cheaper, unverified supplier to steal back. And it's not just good for hospitals. It's good news for legitimate Nigerian manufacturers like Emzor, who lose real sales every single time a patient unknowingly buys a smuggled, counterfeit version of their own product instead. Who this is for? Hospitals and clinics that need to guarantee what they're injecting or prescribing is real. Independent community pharmacies currently buying on trust from informal wholesalers because they don't have a better option. And legitimate local drug manufacturers who need a clean channel to actually reach the patient's counterfeiters are currently stealing from them. The one question this business has to answer: how do I know the drug I'm about to give a patient is actually what the label says it is? As we close, none of these 7 businesses will ever trend on social media. That's the entire point. Dangote didn't build a $36 billion fortune chasing what was exciting. He built it on cement, sugar, and salt, and simply refused to stop. Hormozi says it constantly. Boring businesses are underpriced precisely because nobody wants to brag about them at a dinner party. Cold storage, recycling, skilled trades, laundry, elder care, power, verified medicine. Every single one of them follows the same shape, a real, provable gap. An operator already proving the model on the ground right now, and a revenue structure that pays you whether or not the next funding cycle is hot. If you had to pick one of these to actually go build this year, which one would it be? Tell me in the comments. We study every single one. And if this kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribe to the Executive Playbook.